The cafe was almost empty when Lena noticed the little girl sitting alone by the window, tracing invisible letters in the air. Her small hands moved with purpose, graceful, silent, as if she were speaking to someone who couldn't be seen. A moment later, a man in a tailored suit entered, frustration shadowing his face. He was young, powerful, the kind of man who seemed to own every room he stepped into, but not this one. His eyes softened the moment they met the girls. Lena realized it instantly. The child was deaf, and the man, the heir to one of the most powerful families in the city, was her father. When the girl dropped her spoon and panicked, Lena instinctively knelt beside her and began signing. The child's eyes lit up. The father froze. In that silent exchange, something shattered. Not between Lena and the girl, but inside the man watching them. Because what Lena signed next wasn't just kindness. It was a gesture that carried a secret only he would understand. The man approached with the kind of urgency that makes every table go quiet. "How do you know to do that?" he asked, low, controlled. Lena rose slowly, palms open, meeting his stare without flinching. "Your daughter signs." I listened. He glanced at the girl, Maya, who was now giggling, tapping her fingers to her chin and then pointing at the sky. Lena repeated the motion, gentle and precise. The man's composure cracked. "Where did you learn that name sign?" he whispered. Lena blinked. "She showed me." He shook his head. "No, that sign, star on the chin, her mother made it. Only family knows." The room seemed to tilt for a heartbeat. Lena knelt again, let Maya guide her hands, and signed, "It's okay. Dad is here." The heir, Adrian, exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. "Who are you?" he asked, softer now. Lena swallowed. "A waitress who studied at the community center down the block," she said. "And someone who understands what silence costs." That night, after the last customer left, Lena wiped down the tables slowly, her mind replaying every detail of that encounter. The look in Adrian's eyes, confusion, pain, maybe guilt, had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. She had promised herself never to get involved with people like him again. People who carried silence not as a burden, but as a weapon. Years ago, she had lived that kind of silence when her younger brother lost his hearing after an accident. Their father left soon after, saying he couldn't handle a broken home. From that day, Lena swore she would never let anyone feel that kind of abandonment again. She learned sign language not in school, but in hospital corridors and charity centers, speaking through hands when words failed. It wasn't just a language. It was her way to survive, to connect, to heal. And now, somehow, fate had brought her to that cafe, to a girl who reminded her of her brother's eyes, and a man who reminded her of everything she had lost faith in. 2 days later, Lena saw the same black car pull up outside the cafe. Her heart skipped, though she told herself it was just coincidence. But when the door opened and Adrian stepped out, wearing the same expression of quiet storm, she knew it wasn't. He entered not as the powerful heir everyone knew, but as a man carrying questions that had kept him awake. His daughter Maya followed closely, smiling shyly, her small hands already signing "friend." Lena smiled back, replying the same way. The child laughed, and Adrian couldn't help but soften at the sight. "She hasn't stopped talking about you," he said. "She says you listen better than anyone." Lena looked at Maya and then at him. "Maybe because I don't need sound to understand her." Adrian hesitated, then sat at one of the tables, a rare gesture for someone used to being served, not seated. "You remind me of someone," he said quietly. "My wife." His voice trembled slightly. "She used to sign like that too." Lena froze. The air between them thickened, not with attraction, but with grief that had nowhere to go. Adrian stared at the untouched coffee in front of him, fingers trembling slightly against the porcelain. Her name was Claire, he began, his voice low and uneven. She lost her hearing after Maya was born, complications during surgery. It broke her more than anyone could see. I tried to help, but I didn't understand her world. I was always busy managing the company, the image, the numbers. She used to tell me that silence wasn't the problem, indifference was. He gave a short, bitter laugh. And I proved her right. Lena listened, motionless. She'd heard versions of that confession before, from men who only learned to feel when it was too late. She passed? Lena asked softly. Adrian nodded. Car accident. 2 years ago. His eyes glistened. Maya stopped speaking that day, not even with her hands. Until you. The words hit Lena like a wave. Maya, small and fragile, tugged at her sleeve and signed, "Thank you." It wasn't just gratitude, it was recognition. A child had chosen her as the bridge between silence and healing. And that terrified her more than anything. Lena tried to keep her distance. She told herself that Maya needed stability, not another temporary figure who would disappear when the world got complicated again. Yet every afternoon, the girl would appear at the cafe's window, waving her tiny hand and smiling through the glass, until Lena let her in. Soon the visits became routine. Maya sitting by the counter, sketching little drawings of hands, signing words like hope and home. Adrian began to come too, at first pretending it was just to pick up his daughter. But each day he stayed a little longer. He watched the way Lena communicated with Maya, patient, unhurried, genuine, and it made him question everything he thought money could buy. There was no pity in her gestures, only presence. One evening, when the lights dimmed and the last customers left, Maya hugged Lena tightly, signing, "Don't leave us." Adrian saw it and felt something twist in his chest. For the first time in years, he realized that maybe love didn't have to be loud to be heard. The rumor spread faster than either of them could have imagined. A billionaire heir spending time with a cafe waitress, and his daughter calling her family. Soon Adrian's assistant, Julia, appeared one morning at the cafe. Her tone was polite but cold, the kind that hides warning behind courtesy. "Mr. Hall won't be coming here anymore," she said. "It's not good for the company's image." Lena froze, the tray trembling slightly in her hands. "You mean not good for his reputation," she replied. Julia's eyes narrowed. "You're smart enough to understand the difference." That afternoon, neither Adrian nor Maya came. The cafe felt heavier, as if someone had dimmed the light. Days passed. Lena tried to convince herself that it was better this way. Rich men lived in worlds like glass, and she didn't belong there. Yet one night, as she closed the cafe, she found a small envelope under the door. Inside was a drawing, 2 hands signing family. Underneath, in uneven handwriting, it read, "From Maya." Tears blurred the ink. Silence had returned, but this time it hurt differently. Adrian sat alone in his office, surrounded by glass walls and numbers that no longer meant anything. Maya refused to eat, refused to smile. Every night she stood by the window signing "Lena" into the dark, as if the stars might answer. His empire had never felt so empty. Finally he snapped. He cancelled meetings, ignored calls, and drove through the rain until he reached the cafe. Lena was mopping the floor, startled when she saw him standing at the door, drenched, his tie gone, his eyes desperate. "She's stopped talking again," he said. "Stopped signing. You're the only one who brings her back." Lena hesitated. "Adrian, your world doesn't want someone like me in it." He stepped closer. "Then maybe it's time I stopped living in that world." For a long moment neither spoke. The sound of rain filled the silence they both knew too well. Then softly he asked, "Will you help me fix this?" For her? Lena looked into his eyes and saw something she never expected. Not pity, not arrogance, but a man finally listening. When Lena returned to the mansion, Maya ran toward her before the car even stopped. The girl's tiny hands flew through the air, clumsy but determined, signing faster than words could keep up. "You came back," she said, her face glowing. Adrian stood behind her, trying not to show emotion, though his eyes betrayed everything. They spent the afternoon together in the garden, laughter and signs flowing like music. Then as the sun set, Maya tugged Lena's hand and signed something new, something she'd never done before. Slowly, she touched her chest, then reached toward Adrian and finally to Lena, forming a perfect triangle. Adrian frowned, unsure. Lena's throat tightened as she translated softly. "She said family." Adrian froze, the air leaving his lungs. Maya smiled and repeated the gesture, placing her small hands on theirs. For a moment, the world felt weightless. 3 hearts connected in absolute silence, saying more than any voice could. It wasn't just a child's gesture. It was forgiveness. It was healing. It was the sound of love. Without a single word. Weeks passed, and the world kept talking. Tabloids, investors, whispers in boardrooms. But Adrian didn't care anymore. He no longer measured his worth in headlines or deals. He measured it in the way Maya laughed again, in the way Lena's presence brought light into every silent corner of their home. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness now carried warmth, not from sound, but from peace. One evening, Adrian found Lena teaching Maya how to read lips by candlelight. He stood at the door, just watching. "You've changed everything," he said softly. Lena smiled. "No, she did." Maya turned, reading their lips, and signed a single word. Together, Adrian walked over, knelt beside them, and, for the first time, signed it back. His hands trembled, but his heart didn't. Together. And as their hands moved in unison, the silence around them no longer felt empty. It was full of meaning, of love, of everything they once thought they had lost.